Okay, testing 1, 2, just making sure that you can see me and you can hear me okay. I'll play a little guitar here. Okay, so cool. All right, looks like you can see me and hear me okay. This is awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, I know there's a million things you could be doing, so I appreciate the fact that you're here. What we're going to be doing this week, we're actually celebrating my guitar course, the Music Theory Masterclass. We've just opened that up. So for the next 5 days, today through Friday, I'm going to be talking about some music theory ideas to help you out with your guitar playing, understand how music theory applies to your guitar playing, which is really important for me as a teacher. It's not just a matter of learning music theory, but understanding how it applies to your guitar and your guitar playing, whether it's songwriting, whether it's improvisation, chords, whatever it is that you might be doing. And so what we're going to be doing here is every day at 4 p.m. Pacific, I'm going to go live. We're going to talk about music theory. So if you get a chance to join me each day, that would be awesome. Now, if you can't make it every day, of course, you can watch it afterwards and keep going because they're going to be consecutive. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to start off fairly basic, and then we're going to keep advancing on these ideas. And again, I'm not going to make this complicating. The masterclass goes into greater detail with all of these things I'm going to be talking about, but at least what I want to do during these live sessions is get you set up with some ideas that are going to work for you. So please make sure that you check the link for Music Theory Masterclass. It's going to be in the chat. It'll be in the description or the post for wherever you're watching this, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and you can click on it and see if it's something that you're interested in and see if it's something that is right for you, okay? So again, thank you so much for being here. This is awesome. We already have a lot of people here, so let's go ahead and get started. I don't want to take too much of your time, but the first thing I want to do to start off this week of discussions is talk about learning the notes on your guitar. And it's not an exciting concept, but it is very important if you really want to learn to dial into understanding the scales that you're playing and the intervals that are within those scales, or in your chords or your arpeggios, things like that. It's very important that you learn your notes. Now, if you're like most people, you have some, connection to certain things on the guitar. You might know where certain notes are, but then some strings are kind of hazy, that sort of thing. That's what we want to work on today, is trying to fix that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you two topics, or I shouldn't say two topics, but two perspectives to think about when you're learning your notes. One is going to be a more absolute approach, and the other one's going to be a little bit more abstract approach. And I guarantee you that you could learn all the notes on your guitar if you take the time and you study. And when you study, turn off any distractions. Like, this is really important. If you're going to sit and you're really going to think about these things, I do this all the time with all kinds of different things that I do when it comes to guitar playing, or just anything in general, is take some quiet time and really think about what you're doing. Turn off the TV, turn off your phone or whatever, stay off of Facebook, whatever it might be, and really just engage in the memorization of what I'm going to be showing you today, okay? So in order to talk about this, and again, I'm not going to talk your ear off, okay? I promise. But understand that over the next 5 days, everything's going to be sequential. So what we talk about today is going to connect to what we talk about tomorrow, which is going to connect to the next day, and so on. So make sure that you join me every day, 4 p.m. Pacific, and we're going to keep going with this thing. And if you miss it, you can always watch it afterwards, okay? And then, of course, check out Music Theory Masterclass and see if that's something that you want, okay? So starting off, the first thing we have to understand that this guitar is covered with a series of 12 notes. Okay, there's all kinds of strings, there's all kinds of frets, all kinds of stuff going on, but there's only 12 notes in music. So that's the first thing to understand, is what are the notes in music? And I'm going to do this nice and quick. You can watch this replay as many times as you want, and obviously, again, I'll go into far further detail in the course. But the notes that you're going to be dealing with in music are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. There's no H, there's no I, there's no Q, there's no L, there's no T, there's no Z, okay? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Well, if we count those, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's only 7 notes, okay? Those are the white notes on the piano, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, okay? Let's just call those the main notes, or prime notes. Okay, let's just call it that for now. So this guitar has A, B, C, D, E, F, and G all over it. But that's not 12 notes. So what are the other notes? Well, we get what's called sharps or flats. Okay, so for instance, if A is here on the guitar, which it is, okay, on the 6th string on the 5th fret, that's A, which means that if I move up 1 fret, the next available fret would be A sharp. Now, A and A sharp aren't really related, even though they both have the term A. They're really two different notes, A and A sharp. On the piano, A would be a white key, A sharp would be a black key, A and A sharp, okay? So, on the piano, it makes it seem like A should be more important than A sharp because it's a bigger key and the A sharp is a smaller key, but that's not true. That's not true at all. They're just two different notes. Okay? So if we think about it, if we have A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and all of those notes were to get a sharp, we'd have 7 white keys, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, or 7 prime notes, whatever you want to think of. And then we'd have 7 black keys, or 7 secondary notes, we'll call them. Okay? So we'd have A sharp, B, B sharp, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and so on. That would give us 14 notes, though. We'd have 7 prime, 7 secondary. We don't have 14 notes, we only have 12. And the problem that you have to learn and just get it in your brain is that between B and C on the piano, they're 2 white keys, there is no black key in between those. There's just B to C. So there's no B sharp at this point. Okay? Now, when you get further down in music theory, we can discuss and analyze whether there's such thing as a B sharp, that sort of thing. But if you were looking at a piano, you're not going to see a B sharp on the piano. You're going to see a white note B and a white note C and no black key in between. White key and a black key. Sorry, white key, black key. So if that makes sense. There's also there's E and F on the piano, but there's no E sharp. Okay? So what I always teach people is there's a really easy way to memorize all of this. All you have to do is remember A through G. Everybody gets sharps except for B and E, which spells the word B. Okay? So B-E, if you just remember that. So the notes in music would be A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp. Okay? And again, relatively speaking, you can think about those, right? A through G, everybody gets sharps except B and E. Okay? So let's just start with sharps right now. Again, you might have played piano before or something and you're going, hey, what about flats? We'll get there, but let's just make this nice and easy. So what we're going to do is apply that logic to the 6th string and then every string after that. So if we pluck the 6th string, what we hear, let me switch camera angles here, we hear the note E. This is E right here. So if we go to the 1st fret of this string, we're raising the pitch by 1. So E is becoming F. Not E sharp because there is no E sharp. It's E to F. Okay? And then F moving up 1 would be F sharp. G, G sharp, and then A. So let me explain that. Think of the notes in music as a circle because they keep going in what we call octaves. If you went to the piano, you could play A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You'd be playing the notes over and over and over in octaves, okay? So after G comes A, okay? So you have to remember, you're just kind of going in a circle. So if we go back to this again, I have E, F, because there's no E sharp, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, now be careful because there's no B sharp, so we go directly to C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then E all over again. Now you're going to notice when I get to this one right here, there's 2 dots there. Okay? Now your guitar may or may not have 2 dots. Most of the time at the 12th fret you do. And the reason is it's telling you, hey, you've gone an octave. You started on E, and now you're back on E 1 octave higher. Which means the rest of these frets are just a repeat of the first frets 1 octave higher. This is E, this is F, right? Because there's no E sharp, so this is F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, A sharp, and so on. Okay? So, again, A through G, everybody gets sharps except for B and E, which spells the word B. And you got to get used to thinking that in your head if you're going to memorize these notes. Okay? B is always followed by C. E is always followed by F. Okay? A has A sharp. C has C sharp. Okay? We got to get used to thinking about it that way. So we're not thinking about white keys and black keys. We're seeing everything kind of linear as we move up. Now, what I used to do with students a long time ago is I would explain this idea to them and then say, okay, if you understand that, start on E and then F sharp, and we'd go through it. And then I'd say, okay, go home and memorize those notes. And then they would go home, and the next week they'd come back and I'd say, okay, let's go through those notes and see how you're doing. And I would recommend that you do this too if you have someone that can help you at your house, or a friend, or a relative, or sibling, or whatever it might be, child, that can ask you these questions. But what I would do is I would say, okay, so let's go through your notes and see how well you do. So I'd say, find B, and they would count up. All right, there's B. Okay, find A. So they'd count up and find A. Find D. So they'd count up and find D. And it got me thinking, what can I do to make it so they're not counting, but they know where the notes are? Absolutely know where they are. Not relatively, but absolutely know where they are. So what I did was I started thinking about the fact that the guitar is really based on two things: odd-numbered frets and even-numbered frets. And for us, the odd-numbered frets generally have some sort of dot, right? Now, again, your guitar might be different, but most of the time, you've got dots on the odd numbers. You might have one on the first fret, you might not. Some guitars do, some don't. But you, most of the time, have a dot on 3 and 5 and 7 and 9. And then, of course, we know we have the 2 dots on 12 because that tells us we've gone the octave. Okay? So what I started thinking was, well, what if we just use the odd-numbered frets to memorize the notes? So if we think about it, when we pluck the 6th string, we hear E. If we go to the first fret, we hear F. Those are both prime notes, E and F. So again, even if we just started with those two notes and you just sat and thought about it, E is 0, F is 1. E is 0, F is 1. E, F, E, F. Take you 5 minutes and you'd have those absolutely memorized. Take you 1 minute and you'd have those memorized, right? Whatever it might be. So then what we do is we go on to the next odd fret, E, F, G. This one is G. 3rd fret is G. So E, F, and G. Okay? Next odd number, which is a dot, is A. 1, 3, 5 is F, G, A. So we have E is open, F, G, A, F, G, A. So I would take the student again, and we would go through these. Find F, 1st fret. Find A, 5th fret. Find G, 3rd fret. Find A, 5th fret. They'd move around. Now we're learning absolute now. We're not learning relative. We're learning absolute. We know where those are. A is at the 5th fret. F is at the 1st fret. G is at the 3rd fret. E is open. And even if we only knew that much, we still know a lot more than we did, you see? So F, G, A. Well, if we keep going here, 7th fret is B. So F, G, A, B. 1, 3, 5, 7. F, G, A, B. So again, if you have someone that can quiz you on just those notes, where's F? 1. Where's B? 7. Where's G? 3. Where's A? 5. Just get used to doing that in your head. And you can do it by yourself too, certainly, but it helps if you have somebody that can ask you those. We're not doing secondary notes. We're not doing sharps and things right now. We're just learning these, what we're calling prime notes. E, F, G, A, B. E is 0. That's its own unique thing. And then F, G, A, B is 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay. So this is where we get into the tricky part, if there is a tricky part. We're on B, which is the 7th fret. Okay. So if we go to the next dot technically would be C sharp, because B is at the 7th fret and B doesn't get a sharp, so C is at the 8th fret. And then C sharp, and then D is at the 10th fret. So C and D are not on dots, they're on spaces. So if you were wondering even for a second that the dots were there or the whatever were there for the prime notes, that doesn't work that way. The dots are just there as visual markers for our eyes to see where the odd numbered frets are. That's all it is. We're just using that as a frame to build around, right? So we have F, G, A, B, but C and D surround this dot. They surround the 9th fret. Okay? And I always tell this story, but it's absolutely true. Many, many, many years ago when I was teaching this, I had a little girl I was teaching this to, and I did this. I said, C and D surround C sharp, and I was doing this. And she said, oh, they look like rabbit ears. And so for whatever reason, ever since then, I've always made that analogy in my brain, rabbit ears. So C and D surround the 9th fret, rabbit ears, okay? So F, G, A, B, C, and D, rabbit ears. F, G, A, B, C, and D, F, G, A, B, C, and D, okay? So that's what you can do is F, G, A, B, C, and D, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, and 10, rabbit ears, okay? So you get used to those and you just practice that. Even if it took you a week and you never really knew these notes, maybe you knew them again relatively speaking, but you didn't know them absolute. And what I mean by absolute is if you were in front of 10,000 people and you walked up to a microphone and somebody was going to ask you a question and you're sweating going, oh, what, this is going to be terrible. I'm nervous. 10,000 people staring at me. And they say to you, what's 2 plus 2? You'd easily say 4. That's absolute. Okay. So we want to absolutely know F, G, A, B, C, and D. And it really isn't that hard. 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, and 10. But see how I'm making a relationship between the fret number and the note name. Not just the note name, but the fret number. Right? So 7 is B, 8 is C, 10 is D, 3 is G, 5 is A, F is 1. Right? However you do it. 1 is F, F is 1. Right? You want to be able to make that connection to the fret name and the note, or the fret number and the note name. You want to be able to do that. Okay? So if you can do that, that's the first step of this, is memorizing those notes absolutely. And you don't need your guitar to do it. You need to be able to visualize your fretboard, your guitar to do it. Okay? Yes, you can hold your guitar and that's fine. But you could be in school or at the office or whatever, or driving as long as you can focus on the road or whatever it might be, right? But you can sit and think about that. F is 1, G is 3, A is 5, B is 7, C is 8, D is 10. And you get used to seeing that in your head, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, and 10. Like when I was in high school, in my study halls, when I tell this story all the time too, but when I finished my homework, I would always sit and I would noodle out things on a piece of paper about my guitar. Like I would just sit and think about guitar all the time. And it wasn't just, songs or whatever. It was ideas on the guitar, like what we're talking about now, making that connection of fret number to note name, okay? So understand that when you're learning this on all the strings, each string, you're going to use the odd-numbered frets like we're doing right now. And again, we go into this in the course more in depth, but you're either going to be on a dot, on an odd number, and the note is going to be right, or it's going to be rabbit ears. That's what's going to happen, okay? But here's the biggest advice I can give you with that is do not move on to the 5th string or the 4th string or the 3rd string or the 2nd string or whatever until you absolutely, not kidding yourself, absolutely know the notes on the 6th string. Absolutely. I don't care if it takes you a month to absolutely know those. What that means is for however long you've been playing guitar, 1 month from now, you're going to absolutely know those notes. And then you can learn the notes on the 5th string. Absolutely. Then learn the notes on the 4th string and so on. So even hypothetically, if it took you, which it wouldn't, okay, if you really worked at this, but even if it took you a year to learn all these notes on the guitar, even if it did, there are people that have been playing guitar for 20, 30, 40, 50 years and still don't know the notes on their guitar. And I'm not downplaying them. I'm not dogging them. I'm just telling the truth. So a year isn't a lot of time. Now, the truth is you could learn these notes a lot faster than a year if you really set your mind to it. Okay? Now, there's all kinds of different shortcuts and things like that you could do, and that's great, but I just don't think there's any substitution for knowing something absolutely. Like you really do just know it. It's just there and you know it. Okay? Because it's very quick to be able to find what you're looking for. But again, what most people do is that they learn it sort of. They learn this 6th string 70% of the way there. And then they move on to the 5th string. And then what it does is it shakes the foundation of that sixth string, because now they're learning a new string and the fret numbers are different and the notes are in different places. And now all of a sudden that 70% that they had on the sixth string isn't 70% anymore, because they're kind of confused on what's happening on the fifth string is kind of mucking up what's happening on the sixth string. And then all of a sudden they have a bigger problem. You see? So it isn't about how fast you can get through everything. It's how well you can get through everything. Okay? So learn your sixth string on an absolute level. So somebody could ask you, where's G, where's D, where's B, where's A, where's F, whatever. And you're just slamming them out. You know them, absolutely. Then you move to the fifth string and you do exactly the same thing. Then you move to the fourth string and do exactly the same thing. Third string, second string. First string is a freebie because the sixth string is E and the fifth string is E. So whatever you learn on the sixth string, you've already learned on the first string anyway. Okay? So sixth string and first string's a freebie. So if that makes sense, that's what I want you to start trying to work on. Okay? Now, the next thing I want you to do is let's talk about these pesky sharps and flats things now, okay? And get this answered for you so you understand this too. But this is a secondary conversation. You learn these prime notes like I've been telling you for the last 10 minutes. Learn them, learn them, learn them, learn them. Absolutely learn them. Absolutely. Because it's going to benefit these secondary notes as well. So let's take a look at this now. So if we go back to our guitar, we know that the first fret is F and the third fret is G, because we've learned those absolutely. So we know F and G. Well, what's in between F and G? F sharp. F sharp is in between there. F and G, F sharp is in between. G and A, G sharp is in between. A and B, A sharp is in between. Now, that's relative. If you know where if you know where F is, then you know where F sharp is. If you know where A is, you know where A sharp is. And that is relative, no doubt about it. But it's very, very quick if you absolutely know where A is. Finding A sharp is instantaneous because it's just one fret higher, okay? So that's the relative part of this. Now, let's go back to this for a second because I want to show you this too and answer this question. So F and G, we have F sharp in between. F sharp is the same as saying G flat. Flat means to move back, like a flat tire, you're lowering. Sharp means to raise. F sharp and G flat are the same note. They're the same note. They're called an enharmonic. F sharp and G flat are the same note. Okay? And this is where people get kind of confused because you'll hear somebody go, this is E and this is F. And that is true. And then they'll go, well, there's such thing as an E sharp. Okay, so E sharp would be the same as F, right? I mean, we can call it E sharp because E sharp means we're raising E, but the rest of the world's calling it F. But is there a situation where we would call it E sharp? Sure, okay? But again, that's further down the line. I'm just giving you the information so you understand that notes can have different names, okay? But like if you're hanging out with, a band or you're writing something, people don't say E sharp. They don't. They say F, okay? Even though I suppose in theory, and I shouldn't even say I suppose, there are situations, again, once you get more advanced where something like that could happen, okay? But F sharp is a valid thing. G flat is a valid thing. And we can call it F sharp or G flat. G sharp, A flat. A sharp, B flat. Now, if you've ever played clarinet or piano or whatever, you would know that we don't say A sharp very often, we say B flat. At this stage in our theory, I don't care what you call it, okay? As long as you understand that if A is here and B is here, in between is A sharp or B flat, whatever we want to call it, and get used to that idea, okay? So that's what we need to start off with today for our music theory. Now, let me figure out where my notes are here. Okay, give me just a second here. So I'm going to tell you what we're working on this week. Okay, there we go. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about the major scale and the chords that come from it. So we're going to understand that major scale, at least to a certain degree, and what chords come from that. But on Wednesday, we're going to be talking about major and minor arpeggios. On Thursday, we're going to talk about the basics of modes. And then on Friday, we're going to be talking about combining a bunch of these ideas to create an effective solo. Okay, so I want you to join me each day so all of this makes sense to you. So again, what we're learning here is a bigger topic that you're not just going to learn this in one day, but if you get the idea, you can get started on this. Okay, and all of these things are discussed in the music theory masterclass, and then much further than that. It's just understanding that the music theory masterclass, the goal is to give you all of the pertinent, most important music theory that you need, but still apply it in a realistic way that you can use it in your regular daily practice, okay? I mean, I love music theory. I studied it in college, all that sort of thing, but, there's a lot of concepts that I learned that I don't use on a daily basis. That doesn't mean that maybe somebody else doesn't or something. That's perfectly fine. But that's the goal, right, is taking the information that you learn and actually being able to use it. So hopefully you understand the value in why you'd want to learn these notes on your guitar so the fretboard makes more sense to you as we start discussing these other things. Now, you don't need to have all this memorized as we talk about these. It's just, it all makes logical sense for this week. But, if your plan is to really start getting serious about your guitar playing, these are concepts that you could study with that guitar course for the next, year and get all kinds of things studied and memorized and make it make sense to you. So anyway, thank you so much for being here with me. This is awesome. Please do me a favor, click on the link, whether it's in the chat or in the description below or whatever it might be, and check out Music Theory Masterclass, see if it's something that you're interested in, and please join me tomorrow again at 4 p.m. What did I say? 4 p.m. I'm in Central, so I always forget what time it is. Yeah, 4 p.m. Pacific. So 4 p.m. Pacific, and then we'll keep going from here, okay? So I appreciate everybody being here. Hopefully we got your questions answered. I know somebody was helping out with the chat to try and get some questions answered, that sort of thing. But please remember, you can always watch this video again and try and reconnect with some of this information and then join me again tomorrow, okay? All right, take care, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow.